The night was quiet, but the air inside the small bar buzzed with stories only soldiers could tell. The wooden tables were lined with empty glasses, the smell of whiskey mixed with the low hum of laughter, and a jukebox played an old country tune in the corner. Outside, rain tapped softly on the windows, a slow rhythm that felt like it was hiding something before we drive into video. Please subscribe our channel. It was a normal Friday evening for the men of Delta Force, who had just returned from another secret mission. They sat together, joking, bragging, and sharing tales of courage that most people would never believe. The youngest among them, Sergeant Cole, was the loudest. His laughter echoed through the bar as he slammed his drink down. "You know," Cole said proudly, "there's no one tougher than Delta Force. We've got the best of the best right here." The others cheered, raising their glasses. But then the door creaked open. The sound was soft, but it pulled every head in the room toward it. A man entered, older, slower, with a cane in one hand. His beard was white, and his eyes carried something that didn't match his weak body. They carried stories of fire, pain, and survival. The room fell silent for a second. No one recognized him. The bartender, a quiet man named Rick, looked up from polishing a glass. "Evenin', sir," he said. The old man nodded, his voice calm. "Evenin'." He walked toward a small table near the back, each step careful, as if his body had forgotten how to move fast. The soldiers looked at him, then at each other, confused. He didn't look like much, just another tired veteran with too many memories. But there was something in his presence, something heavy. Rick poured him a drink without being asked. "You from around here?" he asked. The old man smiled slightly. "Used to be." Cole leaned back in his chair and whispered to his friends, "Look at that guy. Probably one of those wannabe vets who tell stories for free drinks." The others chuckled quietly, trying not to be heard. But the old man's ears were sharp. He didn't turn, but his eyes in the reflection of the glass caught their laughter. Minutes passed. The room went back to noise and jokes. But something about that old man kept pulling their attention. Then, one of the soldiers, Mason, got up and walked over to the bar. "Hey, old-timer," he said casually. "You look like you've seen a few things. You ever serve?" The old man took a sip of his drink before answering. "Yeah, a long time ago," Mason smirked. "Army?" The old man nodded. "Something like that." The soldiers nearby leaned closer. "What unit?" Mason asked. The old man hesitated, then said softly, "Special Operations." That got their attention. The whole table of Delta Force men turned. Cole stood up, laughing. "Special Ops? You mean like Delta?" The old man's expression didn't change. He just looked at him and said, "Something like that?" Cole smirked again, taking a few steps closer. "Well, we're Delta, old man. Maybe you've heard of us?" The bar went quiet. The jukebox song ended, leaving only the sound of rain outside. The old man looked at Cole, really looked at him, and for a moment, something flickered behind his calm eyes. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I've heard of Delta." Cole grinned, proud. "Then you know we don't mess around. Maybe you'll tell us your call sign, huh? Every real soldier's got one." The old man didn't answer. He finished his drink slowly, set the glass down, and stared at the counter. Mason laughed. "Come on, we're all brothers here. What was it? Something like ghost or shadow?" The old man's fingers tapped gently against the glass. Then, in a low voice that carried through the silence, he said, "Titan 3. The room froze. Cole's smile faded. The name hit the air like thunder, rolling through the silence and settling deep into every man's chest. Rick, the bartender, stopped cleaning a glass mid-motion. Mason blinked, his mouth slightly open. "Wait," one of the soldiers whispered. "Did he say Titan 3? Cole frowned, confused. "What's that supposed to mean?" The older men in the room, the ones who had been quiet the whole night, slowly turned toward the veteran. One of them, an ex-ranger with a scar on his neck, muttered, "You're kidding. Titan 3? That can't be him." The old man didn't react. He just looked at his empty glass, lost in memories. Cole stepped closer, still trying to act tough. "What's this Titan 3 nonsense? Some old nickname?" The ex-ranger spoke up, his voice shaking. "No, kid. Titan 3 was a call sign from Operation Silent Viper. Classified. The mission nobody talks about." Now everyone was listening. Rick set the glass down carefully. "They said Titan 3 saved an entire Delta team, but disappeared after the mission. They never found him." Cole turned pale. He looked back at the old man, whose calm eyes now seemed to hold the weight of ghosts. "Wait," Cole whispered. "You mean he's that Titan 3? The old man looked up finally, meeting Cole's eyes. "Doesn't matter now," he said softly. "The war's over." But the way he said it, the quiet strength, the pain hidden behind every word, made the room go silent again. No one spoke for a long time. The rain outside grew louder, almost like it was clapping for a hero no one had recognized. The old man pushed his glass forward. "One more drink," he said, "for the ones who didn't make it back." Rick nodded silently and poured another. Cole sat back down slowly, guilt spreading across his face. The laughter that had filled the room before was gone, replaced by respect, and a strange fear. Because now they all knew the truth. The man sitting quietly at the end of the bar was not just another veteran. He was Titan III, and every soldier in that room could feel it. This was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. The rain outside turned heavier, beating against the bar's windows like a drum. The soldiers sat frozen, their eyes fixed on the old man who had just said the name that lived only in whispers. Titan III. Nobody moved. Nobody even breathed loudly. It felt as if time itself had stopped. Cole, who had been loud a few minutes ago, now looked like a boy who had just seen a ghost. His lips parted, but no words came out. Finally, Mason broke the silence. "Sir, if you're really Titan III, then—" He swallowed hard. "Then you shouldn't even exist." The old man didn't respond. He just stared into his drink as if searching for something at the bottom of the glass. Maybe a memory he wished he could forget. Rick, the bartender, leaned forward. "I heard about Operation Silent Viper," he said quietly. "Everyone thought it was a myth, a team that went deep into enemy territory and never came back." The old man nodded once. Most didn't. The soldiers glanced at each other. They could feel something dark coming, a story no one was supposed to hear. Cole finally gathered his courage. "Tell us, sir," he said, his voice soft now, respectful. "What really happened out there?" The old man lifted his eyes. They were tired, heavy with years, but sharp enough to cut through the noise of the world. "You don't want to know," he said. "We do," Mason said quickly. "We're soldiers too. We've been through things." The old man gave a small, sad smile. "Not like this." He leaned back, took a slow breath, and began. It was 1989. The Cold War was ending, or at least that's what they told the public. But the real fight was still going on in the shadows. Our unit was sent deep into hostile territory, 6 men. One goal: stop a rogue operation that could have started a war no one would survive. His tone was calm, but every word carried weight. The young Delta soldiers listened like children hearing a ghost story. We were told the mission was simple. In and out. Destroy the facility, extract data, and disappear. But nothing was simple about that place. He paused for a moment, eyes narrowing. It was built under a mountain. No light, no signals, no exits once you went in. They called it the Black Site. A shiver ran through the room. Even Rick stopped moving, his hand frozen on the counter. We entered at night. Titan III continued. Silence all around. Our comms were jammed within minutes. I remember hearing my heartbeat louder than the sound of our boots. We didn't talk. We didn't breathe too hard. But something was wrong from the start. Cole leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The old man's voice dropped. The site was supposed to be empty, but it wasn't. He looked down, remembering. We saw shadows moving. Not guards, not soldiers. Something else. People who shouldn't have been alive. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Mason frowned. "Sir, are you saying—" "I'm saying we walked into a trap," Titan III said quietly. "A trap built by our own." A heavy silence fell over the bar again. Only the sound of thunder filled the space. Rick spoke softly. "You mean someone from inside?" The old man nodded. "Someone high up. Someone who didn't want the truth to come out. The mission wasn't about stopping a weapon. It was about cleaning evidence, erasing people who knew too much." Cole's eyes widened. "And your team?" "Gone," Titan III said simply. "One by one. Ambushed in the dark tunnels. We never even saw who fired the first shot. We just heard screams, and silence after." He took another sip of his drink. His hand shook slightly. By dawn, I was the only one left. I reached the core of the facility and saw it. The experiment they were hiding. It wasn't a bomb. It was something worse. "What was it?" Mason asked. The old man stared at the wall for a long moment, lost in the memory. Then he whispered, "It was a man." The soldiers frowned. "A man," he repeated. Someone they had been changing, testing on, trying to create the perfect soldier. No fear, no pain, no conscience. Just obedience. But they failed. And he broke loose. Cole whispered, "You're telling us—" "They failed. And he broke loose." Cole whispered, "You're telling us—" "I'm telling you he killed everyone inside that mountain," Titan III interrupted. "And when I finally found him, he looked at me and said, 'They made me to replace you.'" The words sent chills through every person in the room. "What did you do?" Mason asked in a whisper. "I finished the mission," the old man said simply. "I stopped him. I destroyed the site. But I didn't walk out unhurt. He lifted his pant leg slightly, showing the scars that ran deep along his shin. I crawled 3 miles before extraction found me. They thought I was dead. Maybe I should have been. Rick's voice was low. And they erased your record? The old man nodded. They had to. No one could know what happened at the black site, so Titan 3 was declared KIA. Killed in action. Cole rubbed his forehead. But why are you telling us this now? The old man sighed, his gaze distant. Because it's happening again. The soldiers froze. What do you mean again? Mason asked cautiously. Titan 3 looked up, his eyes hard as steel. There's a new program. A new generation. They're trying to finish what they started. I've seen the signs. The same names, the same funding, the same lies. And they're using Delta Force as their cover. Cole stood up, confused and afraid. Sir, that's impossible. We'd know. You don't, Titan 3 said firmly. You're only told what they want you to know. The tension in the room thickened. Rain hammered the windows harder now, thunder rolling across the sky. Mason looked around, lowering his voice. Do you have proof? The old man pulled something from his coat pocket. A small metal dog tag, old and scratched. He set it on the table. It read, Project Titan, Phase 2. The soldiers leaned in, staring at the words. Cole whispered, Phase 2? Titan 3 nodded slowly. They're not just rebuilding the project, they've already started recruiting. And some of them, he looked around the room, his eyes sharp, might already be in this bar. A chill spread through the soldiers. Everyone looked at each other, uncertain who to trust. The lights flickered. A faint rumble came from outside. Not thunder this time, but something deeper. Titan 3 stood up, his cane steady in his hand. If I'm right, he said, then you boys are already part of something bigger than you realize. And if you stay quiet, it'll destroy you too. He dropped some bills on the counter and turned toward the door. The soldiers sat frozen, trying to process his words. Before stepping out, he looked back one last time. Remember the name, he said softly. Titan wasn't a man, it was a project. Then he walked into the rain and disappeared into the night, leaving behind silence, fear, and a mystery that none of them could ignore. The night swallowed the old man's figure as he stepped out into the rain. The door closed behind him with a slow, heavy thud, and the sound echoed in every soldier's chest like a warning. Inside the bar, no one spoke for several seconds. The only sound was the crackling of thunder rolling over the distant hills. Cole finally broke the silence. Did that really just happen? He whispered. Mason stared at the empty doorway, his face pale. He said there's a new project. Project Titan, Phase 2. He picked up the metal dog tag the old man had left behind. It felt cold and heavy, like it carried secrets no one should touch. Rick, the bartender, leaned closer. Boys, you better forget everything you heard tonight, he said quietly. Some stories are meant to stay buried, but the soldiers couldn't forget. There was something about the way the old man had spoken, the calmness in his eyes, the pain behind every word, that made it impossible to ignore. Cole clenched his jaw. If what he said is true, someone's using Delta Force for something dirty. I can't just walk away from that, Mason nodded. We need to find him again. The others exchanged uneasy glances. Find him? One of them said. He vanished into the rain, man. He could be anywhere. Cole shook his head. No one like him disappears completely. Not Titan 3. By morning, the rain had stopped. The sky was gray, the streets washed clean but empty. Cole and Mason met near the military base, both wearing civilian clothes. They spoke in low voices beside Cole's old pickup truck. I pulled his name through every database, Mason said, holding a tablet. No record. No service history. Nothing. Cole frowned. They wiped him out completely. Mason nodded, which means he was telling the truth. Just then, a message pinged on Mason's phone. A strange, encrypted text from an unknown number. Stop digging. You're not cleared. He showed it to Cole, his voice tense. How the hell did they know we were even talking about him? Cole looked around nervously. We're being watched. Before Mason could answer, a black SUV rolled slowly down the street. Its windows were tinted, and it moved too quietly to be casual. The men exchanged a look. Get in the truck, Cole said quickly. They drove off fast, the SUV turning after them. For the next several miles, the chase was silent, only the sound of tires on wet asphalt. Mason checked the mirrors. They're still behind us. Cole's grip tightened on the wheel. They want the dog tag. Mason looked down at his pocket, where the tag glinted faintly in the morning light. What's on it that's worth killing for? The SUV sped up. Cole turned sharply onto a dirt road that led toward the old airfield. Abandoned since the last training exercise years ago. Mud splashed, and the truck bounced over the rough ground. They won't follow us here, Cole muttered. But they did. The SUV stopped about 50 yards away. Two men stepped out, both wearing black suits, earpieces, and the same emotionless faces. They didn't speak. Cole and Mason got out too, keeping distance. One of the men called out, "You have something that doesn't belong to you." His voice was calm but cold. Cole's heart pounded. "You mean this?" He held up the dog tag. "Hand it over," the man said. "You don't know what you're holding." Mason stepped forward. "Who are you, CIA?" The man's expression didn't change. "We're the ones who keep the world safe from men like Titan III. Cole frowned. "He's a hero. He saved lives," the man smirked slightly. "That's not what the files say." Before they could react, the second man reached into his jacket. Cole saw the movement first. "Down!" he yelled. A single shot rang out, hitting the truck's windshield. Mason ducked behind the door, pulling his sidearm. Cole returned fire, forcing the men to take cover behind the SUV. "Who the hell are these guys?" Mason shouted over the gunfire. Cole didn't answer. He was thinking fast. There were only two of them, but they were trained, too clean, too precise. Not random assassins. Mason managed to hit one of the SUV's tires. "That'll slow them," he yelled. But before they could celebrate, a drone buzzed overhead. Small, silent, red light blinking. Cole cursed. "They've got eyes in the sky." They ran toward the airfield hangar, bullets hitting the dirt around their feet. Inside, the hangar smelled of oil and rust, filled with broken crates and old aircraft parts. They ducked behind a steel container, breathing hard. Mason clutched the dog tag tightly. "They're not gonna stop, Cole. They want this thing bad." Cole peeked out. The men in black were advancing carefully, scanning the hangar with flashlights. Then Cole noticed something. A small marking on the dog tag's edge. "Wait," he said, pulling it closer. "There's a code here." Mason squinted. "Looks like coordinates." Cole's eyes widened. "Coordinates to what?" Before they could say more, a voice echoed from outside the hangar. "Drop the weapon, Sergeant Cole." Cole froze. He recognized that voice. It belonged to Major Reynolds, their own commanding officer. He stepped into the hangar, holding up a badge. "Stand down, soldiers. This is above your clearance." Mason stared at him, shocked. "Major, you sent those guys?" Reynolds' face was expressionless. "Give me the tag, son." Cole shook his head. "What is Project Titan, sir? Why are people dying for it?" Reynolds sighed. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. Titan III wasn't a hero. He was the first successful prototype. The others before him failed. Dozens of them." Mason's stomach turned. "You're saying he was an experiment?" Reynolds nodded slowly. "And now Phase 2 is complete. We can't let that information leak." Cole felt anger rise in his chest. "You're creating soldiers you can control. That's not protection. That's slavery." The Major's voice hardened. "That's enough. Hand it over, or you'll both vanish like Titan III did." A sudden crash came from the back of the hangar. Everyone turned. There, in the shadows, stood the old man himself. Titan III, his coat was soaked, his cane gone. His eyes glowed faintly under the dim light. "You should have stayed out of this," he said quietly, stepping forward. Reynolds' face turned pale. "You're supposed to be dead." Titan III smiled faintly. "You should have made sure." Before anyone could move, he raised a weapon, old but steady, and fired. One of the agents fell instantly. The second ducked for cover. Cole grabbed Mason's arm. "Go! Move!" The hangar exploded into chaos. Gunfire echoed, metal shattered, and smoke filled the air. Titan III moved with surprising speed for his age. Every shot precise, every motion deliberate. When the firing stopped, the Major was gone, vanished into the smoke. The drone outside buzzed louder, then flew off into the clouds. Cole turned to Titan III. "You came back." Titan III nodded. "They were following me. I knew you'd need help. Mason looked down at the dog tag. "What's at those coordinates?" Titan III's face darkened. "The truth," he said. "The place where Project Titan was born, and where it's starting again." Cole's heart raced. "Then we're going there." Titan III met his eyes. "If you go, there's no turning back. Once you see it, you'll never be the same." Cole's answer was firm. "Then it's time to finish what they started." Outside, the morning sun finally broke through the clouds. But the light felt cold, almost unreal. The chase had begun. And somewhere far away, in a hidden facility deep underground, Project Titan Phase 2 was already awake. The sun was setting when they reached the facility, a forgotten military base buried deep in the desert. The air was dry, silent, and heavy with the weight of secrets. Cole, Mason, and Titan III stood before the rusted gates, wind whipping sand around their boots. "This is it," Titan III said quietly. "The birthplace of the monsters." They moved inside. The halls were long, cold, and filled with flickering lights. Old computers still blinked, running programs no one had touched in years. Mason scanned one of the terminals. "Sir, this isn't abandoned. Someone's been here recently." Titan 3's eyes narrowed. "Then we're not alone." They pressed forward, weapons ready. Every step echoed through the metal corridors. Suddenly, a door hissed open ahead, and Major Reynolds stepped out, flanked by armed guards. "Welcome back, Titan 3, Reynolds said coldly. "You should have stayed buried." Cole stepped beside the old man. "It's over, Major. Everyone will know what you've done." Reynolds smirked. "No one will. The world doesn't care about truth. Only results." Before he could finish, Titan 3 raised his weapon. "That's where you're wrong!" Gunfire erupted. The walls shook. Mason dove behind a crate as bullets tore through the room. Titan 3 moved like lightning. Age forgotten, instincts sharp as ever. Cole covered him, firing back with precision. Within seconds, the guards were down. Smoke filled the air. Reynolds stumbled backward, wounded but alive. "You can't stop it," he gasped. "Phase 2 is already online." Titan 3 stepped closer. "Then I'll end it myself." He reached into his vest, pulling out a small detonator. Mason's eyes widened. "Sir, no!" Titan 3 gave a faint smile. "Someone has to make sure it ends here." Cole shook his head. "There has to be another way." Titan 3 looked at him. Calm, steady, proud. "You're the future now, Sergeant. Make it count." For a brief moment, the room fell silent. The old soldier pressed the button. The ground trembled. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed everywhere. Cole and Mason ran, dragging Reynolds out of the collapsing hallway. Behind them, the facility burned. Explosions tearing through every lab, every secret. They burst out into the open desert just as the fire swallowed the base. The blast lit the sky, painting it orange and gold. The shockwave rolled past them, carrying dust and heat and silence. Cole stood, staring at the flames. His eyes stung, from smoke or from something deeper. "He did it," Mason whispered. "He ended it." Cole nodded slowly. Titan 3 wasn't just a soldier. He was the man who stopped a war. As the fire faded into the night, a single dog tag landed at Cole's feet, half-burned, engraved with the same words, Titan 3. He picked it up gently, holding it against his chest. "For the ones who didn't make it back," he whispered. And as dawn rose over the horizon, the world was quiet once more because one forgotten hero had finally found peace.